Hello, everyone. Welcome to another screening series Q&A. My name is Camelia Shofani, and I'm the Senior Manager of Public Programs and Events here at the International Documentary Association. I'd like to thank our sponsors, KCRW and Variety, for making this possible. For our blind or low vision attendees, I'd like to visually identify myself. I have dark hair, light skin, and dark eyes, and I'm wearing a black hoodie. This evening, we'll be having a conversation between moderator Senain Kheshgi and director Rita Baghdadi and editor Grace Zahrah, whose film SIRENS premiered at the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year. Also joining us is Shery Bechara and Lilas Mayassi, co-founders of Lebanon's first ever thrash metal band, Slave to Sirens. Before we get started, I'd like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We recognize the Gabrielino Tongva as the past, present, and future caretakers of the culture, land, and water resources in the unceded territory of Los Angeles. So with that, I hand it over to Senain.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Senain Kheshgi. I'm a documentary filmmaker, director, and a producer based in Los Angeles. And I have dark hair, fairly brownish, light skin, dark eyes. And I am here with Rita Baghdadi and Grace, Shery, and Lilas. Excited to have a conversation with all of you who our group has just watched the film, so we can go into a little bit of conversation about the experience of being in the film, making the film, and then actually living with the film out in the world. So Rita, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your group, your team?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rita Baghdadi, director, producer, and cinematographer of Sirens. I have a long dark brown hair, lightish skin. I'm wearing red lipstick and a button-up shirt. Sitting in front of a poster of Sirens and another really cool gold poster that I bought in Beirut. And yeah, Grace, our editor.
Hi, I'm Grace Zahrah. I am wearing a yellow sweater and have curly brown hair. I'm the editor of Sirens and very happy to be here.
And this is Lilas Mayassi, co-founder and rhythm guitarist.
Hi, I'm Lilas Mayassi. I'm co-founder and rhythm guitarist of Slave to Sirens. I have light brown skin, curly dark brown hair that's tied right now, and the black shirt.
And this is Shery Bechara.
Hey, I'm Shery Bechara, and I have dark brown long hair and light skin. Well, my background is my room with some clothes on, and I'm wearing a black shirt. I am the lead guitarist of Slave to Sirens and co-founder.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. Rita, congratulations, Grace, all of you, on such a beautiful and moving film. I found myself really touched by the experience, reminding me also of my youth and feeling such a universality in this story. I think you guys did just such a beautiful job. Uh-oh, we've lost Lilas, seems like. Maybe she'll be back or we can edit around this, but I think you did such a beautiful job in capturing that sort of moment of not only youth, but also of potential. You know, that feeling of being sort of trapped under circumstances of your age, you're living at home, you're trying to find out who you are as a person, but yet also around the circumstances of figuring out who you are and the world around you, as the world around you seems to be exploding literally and figuratively on a daily basis. So Rita, tell us a little bit about the process of making this film and how you kind of came to the story. I know you were excited to find the band as you were out there looking for music.
Yeah, so I grew up listening to, heavy music, punk and hardcore, but wasn't a metalhead until I heard Slave to Sirens. That was in 2018. They had just put out their first EP, so they had 4 songs on the internet. And I came across them at a really pivotal time in my life, when I wasn't necessarily looking for a film to make, but I was sort of in the process of also losing my father in Morocco. And so I was sort of going through a lot emotionally, dealing with, questions of identity and all of that stuff. And so when I heard their music, it just really spoke to me. And I remember sort of now I've just remembered like how I was feeling back then, thinking that like, where else in the world can women just scream like that? Like, where do we have that opportunity? So I was, pretty much became obsessed right away. And I messaged them on Facebook, and Lilas was the one to answer. And so we sort of struck up a conversation, and then that led to some Skype video chats and a friendship. And then Lilas invited me to come stay with her in Beirut. And that's sort of how it all happened. The film really was born out of a desire to feature Arab women as the stars of their own story. And so that was really the starting point for this film.
I mean, absolutely. You feel it throughout. And Lilas, when you responded, you were really taking the reins of your own story, not only on a daily basis, but to get an email from someone you don't know who says, I'm curious. What made you say yes?
Back then, we had just released our EP, Terminal Leeches, and we started getting all this recognition, and the hype was starting to build up, and we got so many interviews, and we had like a lot of like news outlets interested in us. And when Rita reached out, I thought like, this is like another person who's interested, who just wants to get to know us, write a story about us. I had no idea that this is gonna be like a film for 3 whole years. So, and I was curious to know more about Rita, so I did my own research. I Googled her name, and I saw that she's a filmmaker and she looked cool. So, and I saw that she's Moroccan as well. So there's this kind of familiarity that we instantly had together between each other. So yeah, and I remember like picking up Rita from the airport. It just like, I thought I knew her from a long time ago, so I didn't feel like this is a stranger. And this is where everything, the journey began. And I had no idea where we're going, but I had a lot of faith in the story and in the vision Rita had. So just, I was all into that.
Yeah. I mean, Shery, were there any moments in that process of making the film where you were like, what are we doing? Or were you all in right away as well?
Yeah, I didn't even know like where we're going, but it felt right, so.
Yeah. Well, it certainly feels right to us as we watch it, because Rita, with your cinematography and your nuance and trust that you can feel with all of you in the room when you're filming, there's such an intimacy to the storytelling. Like, even as you watch the film, there's not this feeling of, I know what's going to happen, or, there's a traditional arc in sort of a rock and roll story. Everything about it feels so true and real and intimate, and you can feel the trust between you all as co-participants. I mean, I see you, Rita and Grace, as participants in this process as well, because of really like letting the story unfold in a way that feels very real and honest. Did you guys ever, Shery or Lilas, feel as though there were moments where you wanted something different in the film process, or how much of a participant were you in the day-to-day when Rita was filming with you?
I remember that there were a lot of moments where we actually didn't film, we just hanged out. So that was part of the process. And I think what made this movie like happen eventually, and we have this beautiful result out of it, it's just surrounded by a team of women. When it comes to my band, and Rita and Camilla, Grace and Tatiana, sound recordist, just there were this like powerful group of women, so it made the process easier. And a lot of, as I said, a lot of times we were just hanging out. So, and we had a lot of communication, like especially between me and Rita, where at times I just didn't feel like shooting, and that helped us, the communication and the friendship that we had, and it made a lot of things easier, and it made us eventually comfortable with the camera around us. So yeah.
Rita, was there a concerted like process that you guys talked about before you'd roll camera to be able to get that trust? How did you, as a director, what was your process?
I mean, I think the majority of the trust was built up between me and Lilas, like even before I got there. There was a, like she said, a mutual understanding of sort of who we were as people and our dreams in life. And, you know, I felt like I started to get to know her, you know, and then later when I met the rest of the band and Shery in person, you know, it really felt to me like we had, like known each other all along. And so there was sort of a shorthand that I felt already, but yeah, there was a part of my process is just to spend a lot of time even without rolling. I always have the camera with me in case there's something, you know, amazing that happens. But yeah, but there are a lot of moments where we're just eating or, you know, just messing around, just getting to know each other. And so that is a big part of my process, is spending time. And I think sometimes when I like to roll it. It's funny because to contrast that, like I'm using actually a lot of footage, or Grace and we are using a lot of footage from like the first 5 days of shooting in the film, which I think is somewhat rare, because I think a lot of people think that, you know, the participants get more comfortable as you roll more and more and more. But like I said, we kind of just got there and just started right away, and there was a real rawness to it and a real openness from day one. So yeah, it's kind of like a 2-part process that doesn't really make any sense, but you feel it out, and it's a lot that you go on instinct.
Yeah, and it feels like you also, what's so beautiful is that you also hold, and so you can see the thinking process, not only as Lilas and Shery are sort of sitting, or the rest of the band are in the middle of a moment, or your mother, or, you know, other people, you just stay and hold. And that takes a lot of discipline as a cinematographer, because especially if you're the only one filming in room. Can you talk a little bit about your process as a cinematographer and how you think when you're filming a scene?
Yeah, I mean, I am sort of editing in my head a little bit, but I'm also just waiting for the right moment to actually like get in there. Like I start rolling, and I always just stay wide usually and just kind of see what's like where my eye wants to go. I'm always looking for emotion. Where is the emotion happening on screen? Like sometimes the emotion is on the person's face who's listening, not talking. So it's like, I think the instinct, you know, you always think, oh, film the person speaking. Well, sometimes, you know, it's more interesting to film the person listening. So I just really, it's a lot of intuitive feeling and body language. It's hard to explain, you know, how I do it, because I think I just sort of turn my brain off when I turn the camera on, and I just go on feeling, and yeah, and just wait until I got it. Wait until the thing happens that is the best thing that's going to happen. And I think you know when you got it, you know when it happens, and so I actually don't like to roll forever. You know, some days I shot for 20 minutes, some days I shot for 4 hours. You know, it just depends. if I felt like something happened or not. Yeah.
And then Grace, you had the opportunity to work with this beautiful material. How was it for you as an editor? Can you tell us a little bit about sort of how you guys started and how you approached, what was it, like 300 and something hours of footage?
Well, it was such a pleasure to edit the film because one, because of the subject matter, two, because of how beautiful the footage was, and three, I think because Rita and I were really in sync about what we wanted the film to accomplish emotionally, and how we wanted to take the audience on an emotional journey. And we wanted to stray away from some of the typical tropes of documentary. Like from the beginning, we knew we didn't want lower thirds with names.
Yeah.
We wanted it to kind of feel like a narrative film, and which made looking through the footage and finding the beautiful moments really easy, because you were just looking for like what's beautiful, and which is a really, really satisfying way of editing.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background, Grace. You're based in Lebanon. Are you based in Beirut?
No, I'm based in Los Angeles.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I'm based in Los Angeles. My dad's from Lebanon. And I grew up going to Lebanon in the summers. So when I found out about Sirens, I think it was the first time I'd ever even heard of a documentary about Lebanon being made and looking for an editor. So it was really, really exciting to be approached about Sirens.
Had you edited other documentaries, or what were you doing before you and Rita started working together?
Yeah, I'm a documentary editor. I had I had felt a little bit burnt out by documentary editing before hearing about Sirens. But Sirens was too good of an opportunity to miss out on. So it kind of drew me back into editing, and now I'm fully back in documentary editing.
Yeah. I mean, with that material, it's so beautiful, and the story just draws you in. I mean, I was just writing down words as I was watching it that made me feel, what I was feeling. And I wrote down things like innocence and hope and danger and inspiration and freedom of expression. I think, Rita, you said something to me about, or maybe it's in the film, that says, it's a desire to be seen. There's a desire to be seen by women in general, as we all know, but then especially when you're at that stage in your life where you're trying to figure yourself out and you're performing on stage. I mean, how do you, Lilas and Shery, feel? Was that part of this process for you? Like, what did you feel like you were guiding along Rita and Grace as you went about your day?
Can you paraphrase that question?
So as you were being filmed, were there things that you wanted to show the world about who you were?
Yeah, actually, I got it. Yeah, thank you. I think like the whole process was just us being who we are, just living that moment, that present moment back then, and just being ourselves, playing our music, hanging out with each other, and having all these relationships, the friendship, the love, and the family, and everyone. So we were just being ourselves. And it was something I was saying, and I mentioned before, like at first the camera and the whole process would be weird for us, but with time, gradually the camera becomes in the background, so we no longer think about it. So you see the camera in a very intimate spaces, like us recording or practicing. So yeah, just everything gets natural, and I think the key is just us being who we are. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rita, did you ever feel like you had to push the story in a direction, or did you just feel like it was unfolding? What's your process in deciding when to film and when not to film?
No, I mean, in fact, if I asked, anyone to do anything like over, it would be met with a laugh and a, yeah, right. So these girls were 100% themselves. And that's really what drew me to them. Honestly, like I wanted to make a film where women could be unapologetically themselves. And so I would repeatedly tell them, don't worry about me, just be yourself. Don't even, there's nothing I wouldn't ask them for anything. I would just pretty much disappear in times. And then like when I turn the camera off, I'm just like Rita again and we're hanging out. But I just look for those moments silently. I'm kind of like me and our sound woman Tatiana became like just telepathic and we're just like dancing around silently and hoping to disappear so that we could capture those real authentic moments.
I mean, a conversation that's become very prescient and in the documentary community now is this idea of participation of a subject in a film, because it's a collaboration. I mean, that idea of being able to have that trust built with your subject while you're making the film is huge. And then it must be such a surreal experience for you both to then see yourself in a completed film. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to see the film for the first time when you did, and was that at the premiere or was it before?
Is that for me or Shery?
Shery, do you want to speak to that or?
Well, I didn't know what to expect, I guess. And the thing is that I knew in a way, in a sense, because from the first moment, like you just answered this like few minutes ago, like from the first day that Rita came, it's like, it's weird that something just, it got enchanted and it's like there's no camera, we just kept on being ourselves. And but when we watched the film, it was kind of weird, maybe, since like, okay.
Have you both been to screenings, public screenings with audiences in a room with you? Have you been able to do that yet?
Yeah, I think our first public screening was in San Diego, but I remember like the first time I saw the film, I had no idea what to expect. And when I saw it, it was really weird for me to see myself on a screen. That was like the first thing I thought about. And I was very overwhelmed by all the mixed emotions because it was so beautiful. I remember that when the film ended, I cried and I hugged Rita because it was so beautiful. And like, I needed time to process. It was a bit heavy for me, and it made me realize a lot of things that I did not like necessarily see back then, but when I saw it on a screen, certain things made sense to me. So it was really emotional. So yeah, and when I saw it in like San Diego as well, it's same reaction. I was overwhelmed and I needed time to process. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the case for a lot of us who watch the film as well, because we see so much of ourselves reflected back at us, and moments in our own lives that are so universal. And so I just want to thank you very much for letting Rita and Grace and all of us into your lives. I think we're all big fans of the band now and are going to be out there talking about you guys, but more than anything, we're fans of the film as well. And so Rita, thank you. What are you off to making a new film, or what's your goal? What are the release plans for the film?
Yeah, the film is in theaters currently all over the country. So if you just go to sirensdocumentary.com or Oscilloscope's website, then you can find all the showtimes. We're still in lots of festivals in the US and all over the world, in Europe everywhere. So hopefully you can catch the film in a theater. But yeah, Sirens is, being released. And so, yeah, I'm starting a couple new projects at the moment.
Busy.
Yeah, some exciting times. Yeah, but this film has a special place in my heart forever.
Well, thank you both, Grace and Rita, and thank you both, Shery and Lilas. We're excited to see where you guys go next as a band. And I'm really glad that, Grace, you didn't get too burnt out, because we're so lucky to have you as a doc editor in our community. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, IDA, for hosting the screening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.